No, 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 no. Another episode of Touring the AFC South, episode 350. Yeah, we made it to 350 episodes of talking about the AFC South. Who knew that would actually happen? I did, but hey, it's just me. But of course, joining me on this episode is someone that knows a lot about NFL football and specifically about players coming into NFL football from college football, of course. I've locked on NFL drafts. Damian Parson, what's going on, man?
And nothing much, man. It's preseason. Next week kicks off college football, so it's like Christmas, man.
And you got the gifts up under the tree already, right?
You know it. You know it, man.
I hear you there. We're going to dive into the AFC South, talk about a lot of the AFC South teams. Throw a little rookie flavor into that as well. So are you ready for us to go ahead
I'm
on
ready.
that tour of the AFC South?
Let's do it.
All right. All right, here we go. We're going to start with the Tennessee Titans. Of course, the Tennessee Titans had the pick in Mr. Cameron Ward. Now, with that being said, Cameron's had some highs and some lows at practice. He's, of course, had some moments of leadership. Also, shows up at 5 to 5:30 every day with his wide receivers to get things done. So, what from what you've heard and saw from him so far, and of course, the preseason game, the second drive where he drove them down for a touchdown as well versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. What are your thoughts on him so far and the highs and lows he's kind of experienced in the NFL?
I think he's going through that learning experience. This is a player that has throughout his college career, like for most people who don't know, he was like I think a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. He played in like the wing T offense for those who don't know what the wing T is. It's the Paul Johnson old school Georgia Tech triple option. I think Army runs it, Navy runs it. It's not a lot of throwing. It's more just straight run game, things like that. And so that's why he was a 0-star recruit, went to Incarnate Word for about 2 years. He lighted up over there and everything, went to Washington State and then went to Miami. And for a guy for like him, it's more so just learning to play on time and on rhythm and on schedule in this Callahan offense. Whereas like at Miami, it was like, hey Cam, do your thing, whatever that means, do it. Just lead us to a victory. He had to put Miami on his back, had to put Washington State on his back as well. And that's why you're gonna see some of those highs and lows. I think it was the Cal game. He had like a terrible interception in that game, but they ended up coming back and winning that game. He was on ESPN talking about it. He said, I'm a gunslinger. He talked about the fact that he's willing to take chances. He is a playmaker, things of that nature. So as we all know, with those type of that archetype mentally, especially when you have the arm talent that he has, you're going to get some throws that you're like, hey, don't do that. Or, it's really and that's what practice is about, right? It's kind of that whole kid touching the hot stove to know that it's hot and never touch it again. It's that type of situation.
Hmm.
I want my quarterbacks to. I remember when Pat Mahomes was a rookie and like people were losing their minds because he threw like 7 interceptions or something like that in one practice. And it's like, yo, get that out of your system now. Like learn the windows that you can test and learn the windows you can't test. So I think what we've seen of the ups and downs throughout, practice and camp and everything like that to the preseason game, the first drive, you could tell he was a little antsy, you know what I mean? Just trying to play on time. If guys weren't where he thought they should be, he didn't throw the ball to that. I think he had like a crossing route to I think it was Calvin Ridley that he didn't hit, and he got a little antsy in the pocket, broke. It was a clean pocket. He kind of broke contain and then kind of threw it wasn't a throwaway. It was actually still in bounds. It was like, yeah, Cam, throw that far out of bounds. You know what I mean? Because in the NFL, these guys still play to the whistle. So just things like that. But that second drive, you saw him be confident. One thing he talked about after that Cal game as well was of how coachable he is. Like, he's like, yeah, I think the OC or the QB coach at Miami was like, hey, you are trying to do too much, in a sense. Paraphrasing. Tell him you're trying to do too much. And he was like, no, like, just relax, play your game, things like that. And that's when he kind of got back into rhythm. So I think what we're going to see is, I think that's the expectation to see throughout the season. Like, you're going to see him make some rookie mistakes, but you're going to see some brilliant plays from him. Just like that second drive. And when you start seeing him find himself for the Titans against the Bucs, he started layering throws, and he was throwing early, anticipating the window. And I'm like, that's the stuff that people knocked him for coming out of college. But it was more so like, hey, what are you coached to do in college? And I've done the NFL draft and scouting for so long now. You learn that a lot of times it's not what a player can't do. It's more so what they're told to do, what they're taught to do. And now he's with a coach that thrives, his offense thrives off timing. And you're starting to see him develop into that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting just to see how he develops more and more as the season goes on. Of course, the season hasn't really officially started, just meaning, preseason and the first game and things like that. But, another place where the Titans are looking at a few things is the wide receiver position. They've got a lot of young talent there. You got Alec Aomander from Stanford. You got Xavier Restrepo, free agent signing from University of Miami. You've got Gunnar Helm, tight end from Texas, and you've got Chim DK, the wide receiver from Florida. All four are young players and a chance to make an impact. If you had to kind of layer them in terms of what order they would make impact, or who you could see making the biggest impact or the least impact, what order would you kind of go in with those four guys?
I would go Elick. I'll go Elick number one. I would then go Gunnar Helm 2 at the tight end spot. I think Gunnar will probably see the field before DK. And I would go Elick, Gunnar, DK, and then Restrepo. And I think Restrepo is going to get his chance and everything, but we just got to kind of see them put him on the field with Cam. Right now, because I think both him and DK, when he was at Wisconsin, played on the outside. He played the Z receiver spot. When he transferred to Florida, they used him more as that slot. And this is an explosive athlete, strong build, run after catch, can stretch the field vertically, things like that. And everybody who watched Cam, watch Restrepo be just his security blanket, route running, separation, timing, all of that. Now, he's not the greatest athlete, and he doesn't have the biggest frame or catcher he is, but tough receiver. I believe he's in the record. He broke a record for Miami this past season, during the college football season. So, yeah, I look at it in that kind of realm. I think it's going to be, because with Tyler Lockett being there, I think Elick, and this was something I was told from a source there in Tennessee it was like after OTAs going into training camp, was that Elick was the guy that they expected to eventually take that X receiver role. Right now, I think it's Van Jefferson who they've had slated to start there. But Van at this point is more of a, like, he doesn't give you any much athletic upside and everything. So when I look at Elick, he has a former track background. He can stretch the field vertically, but it's going to be the bigger frame, the back shoulder fades, the things of that nature, stop routes, curl routes, comeback routes, where he can sell that vertical plane, snap it off, work it back to the quarterback, and just gain that chemistry with Cam. So I kind of see it there's a chance, there's a better chance for him to end up leapfrogging the slated X receiver, which I think is Van Jefferson, to take that spot, during his rookie season, rather than DK and Xavier Restrepo. I think Tyler Lockett, who even though Seattle let him go, Tyler Lockett is still a good receiver. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. He's going to run his routes the right way. Is he going to get you a lot after the catch? Absolutely not. Tyler is very smart at this stage of his career. He's going to catch that first down. He's going to get down. He's going to preserve his body. He's not taking those hits, but he's going to move the chains for you. So, and he's going to be a great mentor for DK, for Xavier Restrepo, and for those guys. And they already had Chigo Okonkwo, who's their starting tight end. But I do think Gunnar Helm, especially with his ball skills and route running and things of that nature, he could see the field. They go to some 12 personnel packages. I think you could see him being kind of that move tight end where they have to work on his blocking a little bit. But yeah, I think it's DK, Helm. No, it's Elick, Helm, DK, and then Restrepo.
Yeah, a lot of people are were hoping a little bit higher order for Restrepo, but I totally understand why he's not in the higher order there because, of course, he's got some work to do there,
Yeah,
and they're deep at that position. But a lot of people still remember the connection between Cameron Ward and Deacon, not Deacon, Cameron Ward and Restrepo at Miami. So, a lot of people
absolutely.
still remember that. But hey, in time it may happen. In time it may happen, but just not right now. I don't think it is the time. Overall, just want to ask, what are your thoughts just on the Titans? What do you see happening with them this season?
I think they're going to be competitive. I think they've built a competitive team. Of course, all the reports of them with I think with 2 days of practice with the Falcons and joint practice, you had scuffles, you had fights. Like that defense that they have led by Jeffrey Simmons. That's a physical defense. They're scrappy. They're going to talk a lot of trash. They're going to be in your face. They're going to try and punch you in the face. Like they're a physical bunch, and they've kind of built it the right way, right? Him, Tavondre Sweat, and those guys. Like that defense is, to me, that's what's going to lead this team. I think offensively, you want to, yes, Cam Ward is going to be the vocal point, but you want to get Tony Pollard and that run game going, right? To give him, because that's what he didn't have enough at Miami last year. It was a lot of Cam take us to the promised land, where it's like, for me in the NFL, I want Cam being able to get under center, hand it off, and let the run. Like if we can get 6 or 7 straight positive runs, force the defense kind of into some shells that's vulnerable. Now we get the play action going, and you can uncork that long ball once you get into the shot play territory. You're +4 plus your 45. You get to closer to the 50-yard line, the midfield. Yeah, I'm taking that deep shot if I get one-on-one with Calvin Ridley. And Calvin
Mm-hmm.
Ridley is still a guy that's an outstanding route runner. He still has the deep speed and long speed to stretch and pull away from guys and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I envision this team overall. I think they're going to be competitive. I think they're going to be tough. I don't think they're going to be an easy out for teams. Regardless of the fact that you have a rookie quarterback and things of that nature, but they reinforce the offensive line with like Dan Moore and different guys like that through through the free agency. Kevin Zeitler was, and I've been Kevin Zeitler has been just a steady, just really good guard throughout his entire career. No matter where he's been, he has been a good football player. So talking about creating that protection up front that allow Cam to move in the pocket, step up, find his throwing lanes and his options. That's going to be big for him. I think that's what Cam is really, really dangerous. You give Cam time, Cam can absolutely go into a surgical mode and slice and dice the defense. So I think this is going to be a team. I don't foresee them having a winning record. Their division is going to be this division is going to be interesting as we get to some of the other teams in it. But I do think this is going to be a team that, like, especially back end of the season, you think about teams trying to make the playoffs, and you think, okay, we might got one, we may have one with the Tennessee Titans. Like, don't be surprised if they spoil your playoffs, your postseason hopes if you go in there thinking it's going to be sweet. I think this is going to be a team that's going to be very competitive.
Definitely. Another team that's expecting to be competitive this year and then some is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars last season didn't go quite as well as they wanted. Of course, Dougie P got the pink slip, and in comes Liam Cohen, Mr. Duval himself. Of course, he can't ever say Duval like that ever again. That's just as bad. But with this season and all the things that are on the line, it's definitely going to be a lot of excitement there. And that excitement definitely hinges on one gentleman as well. That would be Travis Hunter. Mr.
Yeah.
Offense, Defense, Special Teams, whatever, selling popcorn at the concession stand, does it all.
Yeah.
So, I honestly think it's very amazing what he's doing so far. And just looking at it, he had more reps on offense than defense when he first got there in the rookie camp. Then in the OTAs, he ended up having more reps on defense and offense. He's switching jerseys in the scrimmage. I mean, he's doing everything. So what? I mean, isn't? I mean, to me, it's amazing. But I gotta ask you, isn't it amazing just watching what he is trying to do at an NFL level that really no one has ever really done?
Absolutely. Like this, if he pulls this off, like it's gonna be one of the biggest and greatest feats in all of NFL history to be able to play. Because as a prospect throughout the college football season last year, most scouts that I talked to, the thought process was we will play him as a full-time corner and have a package on offense. Well, the team that drafted them need more receiver help than they need DB help. So they said, no, we're probably going to play him starting out primarily as a wide receiver too. And you think about, and that is more so of an indicator of what they're trying to do for Trevor Lawrence. You have Brian Thomas Jr., who, in a sense, you probably look at it and say, man, he probably should have went like top 10 or a lot earlier than he did. But we got to steal with him where they were able to draft him. Big body. I remember talking to a source at LSU and everything during the draft cycle last year, and he said, "Man, like this dude is an absolute freak of nature. The things he's able to do, like at his size, the route running ability, like it's so much upside and so much like untapped potential with him. And the things I've seen him do in practice, he is unreal. And you saw that last year, stepping into that wide receiver one role, and you're expecting that to continue. Now adding a Travis Hunter and his run after catch ability, he's the and their skill sets are similar, but he meshes very well with Brian Thomas because he can work the short game a lot better than Brian Thomas can. Like he's so good. I think I've talked about him on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast in terms of Travis Hunter as being a punt returner as a receiver. When you talk about those spot concepts, those quick hitting routes in zone and in spaces, he has a great feel for space. He knows where defenders are in relation to where he is, things of that nature. So I think what he's trying to do, I think he's going to be able to pull it off. It just won't look the way it looked at Colorado. In Colorado, he was playing 100% of the snaps or close to it, and that was a big thing with his development as a receiver and as a DB. In the NFL, if you're playing DB and you give up a touchdown, you go back to the sideline, you get that Microsoft Surface tablet with your DC, and you go over the play. At Colorado, he didn't have that opportunity. He had to go right back and get on the sideline, take a breather. All right, I got to go out here and be wide receiver one for my offense and for Shedeur Sanders. So I think now with him playing more wide receiver, or playing primarily wide receiver, rather, I think it's going to set him up to be able to come in to games, probably late in games, especially, right? Like late in games, that kind of money drive, you need that stop, things like that. He can come in and be that extra defensive back. And he, as we know, his ball skills are outrageous. So just at receiver, his ball skills are ridiculous. But you put those ball skills at corner with his athleticism, yeah, like you absolutely have a guy that can make for the quarterback. You're going to have to be accurate throwing in his direction. That's going to be the key. Like if that ball is not where it's supposed to be, it's at danger and at risk of him taking it from you and giving the ball back to Trevor Lawrence.
Right. And in the words of T'Vondre Sweat, you're in danger of him taking it to the house. I don't know if you heard him talk about that last year when he had that fumble recovery. I asked him what he was thinking last year when he had that fumble recovery. The first words he said, "Take it to the house." So,
all right, Trick Daddy.
yeah,
I see you.
that was hilarious, man. That was hilarious, man, when he said that. But we do have a couple comments. We have a comment from the Not Bland show. Give me one second to put that up. He has a thought on Travis Hunter as well. I can bring it up real quick. Here it goes. If it'll pop up for me, comment. Well, we'll go back to it. We'll go back to it when I get a chance. But just want to kind of get into other things as well. Besides Travis Hunter, do you see any other rookies or making an impact on this roster?
Mm. Man, I mean, for Jacksonville, that's going to be interesting with their team in general. I think they're probably
Here
going to
was
want
that
to lean
comment.
more. Oh, here's a comment.
Here
Let
was
me
that
see.
comment. Here was that comment on Jacksonville. I couldn't bring it up a minute ago. My apologies. But
No, no, you're good. You're
says
good.
says, man, I love Jacksonville this year. It's from the Not Blend show. I think Liam and the new addition to the offense, they will be scoring, and the new addition to the offense will be scoring more points. I'm interested to see if my guy Travis Hunter can pull this off, which we all will be watching and wondering as well. But going back to it,
Absolutely.
going back to it, rookie impact players. I'm wondering if there's going to be any other rookie impact players. I mean, but other than that, I can't really think of a ton of rookie impact players that they have outside of Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, it's their guys are more you would think down the road situations like Bashul Tootin, the running back out of Vatek, like short,
Hmm.
stout build, explosive guy, like a home run hitter. And the thing with
Hmm.
him is more so like it's you got to figure out what happens with Travis Etienne. You got, you know,
Hmm.
what I mean, you have Tank Bigsby there as well. They drafted LaQuint Allen Jr. out of Syracuse, who I was actually surprised that he into the draft. He could have gone back, and with his skill set, Syracuse lined him up in the slot. They ran routes with him like a big wide receiver. Like he's a talented young man. So I think that's the rest of their draft class. I think Caleb Ransaw, the corner out of Tulane, I think he has a chance to potentially make some plays and everything. Monheim, the center, if he can work himself into the rotation and into the starting lineup. But for me, it's this this draft class is basically the Travis Hunter show, and it's going to be a lot of on what Travis
Hmm.
can do and how much of an impact, positive impact, he's going to bring to this team.
At you now. Last question on Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they always have great talent, but they never live up to it. So this season, do you think this the season they live up to it, or are they going to continue to struggle to find that balance to live up to that height, which Jacksonville usually has?
I think this is the year they take that step. And this is the year that you have to take the step, especially Trevor Lawrence, because now offensively, and I've always said before they got Brian Thomas Jr., before they got BTJ, I kept saying you go back to his time at Clemson, and I remember talking to talking to DBs who faced Clemson during his time there, and it was always, man, if you give him a big body receiver, like he can cook, like he's really good with big area code type wide receivers. And that's what Brian Thomas Jr. is, on top of having 4.3 speed. Now you bring in a guy with the ball skills of an area code wide receiver in Travis Hunter. And we don't have the official 40 for Travis, but I wouldn't be shocked if Travis is in that 4.4, 4.3 range as a straight line athlete, right? We know he's a ridiculous athlete all around. So I think that this is going to be the year. They're going to be able to run the football. Liam Cohen is a really good offensive mind, and his ability to design and create advantageous opportunities for his quarterback. We saw it with Baker Mayfield even last year and everything after Dave Canales went to the Carolina Panthers. I think he's going to be able to put Travis Hunter, BTJ, and Trevor Lawrence offensively in the right spots. The run game and what he had and how he was cooking with Bucky Irvin, who was I think fourth round pick in that draft, and people were low on him because he didn't run the fast 40 and everything. But yeah, Lincoln gave him an opportunity, and they were able to run the football. Him and Rashad White last year. So I think this is going to be the year. And off defensively, this is a team that has to take, they have to take that next step. On the defensive side of the ball, you want to see what you can get in Mason Smith, like his second year out of LSU. He get back to being that freakish like 3 tech 4 eye that he was his freshman and early sophomore year before he got injured? and everything. You want him to get back to there. Trayvon, being able to Trayvon Walker taking that next step, having Josh Allen Hines. Like, if you can get to the core, you can get to CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and those guys. Like, if you can get to everybody with 4, we saw that with, listen, I'm telling you right now, guys, just be prepared for it. What we saw with the Eagles in the Super Bowl, you're probably going to see teams try to replicate that. That consistent 4-man rush where I don't have to send an extra blitzer. Because when you don't have to blitz, you can drop 7. You send 4, drop 7, you got maximum guys in coverage. And that's going to be the big thing defensively. So getting after it with 4, getting after guys with 4 is going to be big for this team. And in that secondary, man, I think they have the talent. Now it's just all about, can we get everybody playing disciplined football and playing level-headed football? And if they can do that, if Liam Cohen can do that, this team should definitely take that step forward.
And it'll be interesting to watch. Another team will be interesting to watch for other reasons will be the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, there's a lot going on over there, and it's going to start at the quarterback position. Of course, you're seeing all the reports that Anthony Richardson and he has slimmed down. He's discovering a changeup, actually, which I'm noticing that. He's got a little changeup more with his instead of just all the fastball. He's been solid sometimes in practice, been kind of interesting in practice. Of course, everyone's talking about the big play, Baltimore, where he took the hit, and I thought he broke his pinky, but he actually dislocated it, which was a blessing in disguise for him.
Right.
So as far, as everything is going so far, kind of the ups and downs he's experiencing, being a third-year guy or fourth-year guy. It's third or fourth. I mean, years are going by so fast. But anyway, third year, yeah. But Anthony Richardson, how do you see this going for him in Indy? Based on how it's going so far for him, and the changes and all those different things that they kind of trying to implement in terms of his diet, and you can tell obviously, and then with his throwing and kind of trying to find that change up as well.
Yeah, I think it's all going to depend on, to me, the competency of the coaching staff and the front office, because the problem they've made over the last 2 years is thinking that they were a team that was competing for the playoffs. When you take a raw quarterback, you're not competing for the playoffs. Because if you wanted to compete for the playoffs, you should have gotten aggressive with the Chicago Bears and go get Bryce if you felt like that was the case. Or go get CJ Stroud, a more pro-ready, like the quarterback that's played 2-3 years, that have those games underneath their belt. They didn't do that. And because they had this false mentality that, hey, we are a competitive football. No, you're a competitive football team. You're just not a playoff contender just yet. Take the time to, I always kind of compare it to this. Do you want your steak cooked correctly? Do you want it seared? Do you want it grilled? Like, do you actually want it cooked correctly? Or do you want somebody to put it in the microwave and tell you that it's cooked? Because it could be cooked either way, but I want the one that's cooked correctly and properly. I don't want any steak out of the microwave. So that's what you have to get out of that instant gratification thing where, you know what, let's take those bumps and bruises. Of course, the first year, I think they were planning on it, but he ended up getting hurt. That AC, usually when you hear AC joint, it's like, oh, it's a sprain. You can play through it, or you sit a couple weeks and you come back and you're good. His was a grade, I think 3, and it forced him to get surgery. Okay, then you come into last season, and instead of like, okay, if he's dealing with struggles, again, he was a raw quarterback. So time on task is a big thing. That's why a lot of scouts are gravitating to the model of, do you have 25 to 30 starts in college football now? Right? We've seen it with Jayden Daniels, Bo Nix last year. Like, those guys who have played a lot of football, they've seen a lot of different things. Like, they have been Michael Penix Jr. Like, they've gone through the ringer. And I think that's the big thing for me with Anthony Richardson is, like, this year, I know they're trying to do the whole battle and thing with Daniel Jones. Yeah, and again, that protection, that's a young player who hasn't seen that a lot. Third down, for one, I don't think he was expecting them to give him any exotic looks like that in preseason, which these defensive coordinators in week 1 of the preseason were not playing. Quinn Ewers got lit up on a simulated pressure against Chicago. because Dennis Allen went full psycho mode and said, you know what, I don't care, I'm sending the house, and things of that nature. So like I think when it comes down to AR, if I'm Indianapolis, Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, your jobs are connected to AR. Your jobs are completely connected to him. And if you can't go, you can't do the pendulum swing anymore. Let him start from week 1 to week 17. You can development's not linear. Like there's going to be peaks and valleys in it. It's the same thing as with business and revenue. You're going to have some really good months starting out as an upstart. You're going to have some low months. But if you keep going, those high months are be more consistent for you because you're figuring it out on the fly of what works. It's the same thing for me with quarterback. They need to let him live and die and figure it out in real time. So like if he doesn't have the pinky, you send him back out there like, hey, you see that again. And the reason why I say that, I go back to when I scouted him at Florida. There was a play where it was the Utah game. I'm pretty sure. I think it was Utah. And it was either Utah or Ole Miss. But Kentucky. I'm sorry, Kentucky. It was him versus Will Levis. And in that game, they sent a cat blitz off the corner, from the nickel, and they got to him. They sped him up. He threw an inaccurate ball down the field. They ran it again the very next drive. He ID'd it, came back and threw a 15-yard strike for a first down on 3rd and 10. So it's like it's time on task. Like he's a smart young man. Like you just gotta let him learn. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, he had the dislocated pinky in that game last week, and it was like, man, if he just took the hit, okay, cool, and he can get back out there, play the rest of the first half. Then let's see that maturation process. But that's going to be the big thing for them. I say start him all season. We know what Daniel Jones is. He's a bridge quarterback that's going to lead you to a top 5 pick. Like, let's just be honest. That's just what he's always done. Outside of that 1 year where they made the playoffs with Brian Daboll. So the Colts, to me, they made the right decision getting Tyler Warren and bringing him in as a young tight end because they did not have an easy button in this offense. AR per NFL Pro, AR led the league in deep passing percentage with over 20% of his passes going 20-plus yards in the air last year. Joe Flacco, who was his backup, was like 4th in the league with 13%. So Shane Steichen, you need to call some quick hitters, some spot concepts, some slant flat combination. You need to call some stuff that is shorter to allow your guys to get into rhythm. I always say this, at the end of the day, man, watch Tom Brady. Like, was Tom Brady the most exciting quarterback to watch? No. But from a football standpoint, Tom Brady will lull you to sleep with all those dinks and dunks, get you to start hedging closer to the line of scrimmage, and then when you least expect it, it's Gronk for 30 yards up the seam, big explosive play. You have to earn the right to take the 3-point shot. You can't come off the bench cold, jacking 30-footers. You got to be able to get to the cup, get some layups, hit the mid-range.
That's right. That's right. Now, you did mention in terms of the Colts and, and let them see a few things and learn and things like that. The one thing I think they did a disservice with him was using the running game. I think they honestly should have used the running game more to facilitate his growth in the offense. I think he'd be further along if they had done so, but it seemed like they tried to make him a pro-style quarterback on top, and I'm like, Shane Steichen, come on, dog. I know what you want to do, but you need to use this running game first. That's why I thought they made a mistake. But you mentioned him earlier. You mentioned the tight end, Tyler Warren. How big do you think he's going to be for this offense? Because I think he's going to be a big piece of this offense, bigger than what people think he's going to be. What are your thoughts on him and his fit?
Man, I think you look at not even the beginning, but just the preseason game last week against Baltimore. They were getting him the ball. They were targeting him, right? They had a legal man down the field penalty that called back a first down where they threw a tight end screen to him. Like, he's really good with the football in his hands. He's a former high school quarterback. He's a good athlete. He's physical, but he's also nimble and agile enough to create with the ball in his hands. So I think and I was texting one of my guys over there in Indianapolis. I said, if you guys are smart, he should be your leading target getter, in my opinion. I would honestly run the offense through him. I said, because at the end of the day, when you look at any level of football, if you have a legitimate tight end That's the biggest mismatch on the field, because how do you match up with a legit 6'5", 6'6" athlete that's 250 pounds, right? You can't put a small nickel corner on him. Yeah, he can. You might be able to stay in the hip pocket, but he's going to get pushed around when it's all said and done. He's going to get bodied at the catch point or mossed at the catch point. Linebackers are typically shorter and not athletic enough or not big enough to run with them either up the seam. And then safeties are also physically outmatched for the most part too. So I think Tyler Warren should be featured heavily in this offense. If he's not the number one target getter, he's got to be in that top three. I know they got Josh Downs, who I think you get the ball to Josh Downs as well. This offense should be a polar opposite. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde from last year. I want AR taking less deep shots. I want to see him taking that 5-yard hitch route, that 7-yard in cut, like the flat route, different. Like, let these guys make plays after the catch, and that's all about building your quarterback's confidence. So I think that's how I think Tyler Warren's going to help this team, because he's a guy that can now. Their tight end room last year was just so unreliable, to whereas I think I'll go back to that Patriots game. He hit, I think it was like Colin Granderson up the seam in the red zone for a touchdown drop. And I'm just like, we cannot have those. You know what I mean? When you have a young quarterback that struggles with his accuracy, you want him, you got to complete that pass, and he needs to see that in the end zone and be like, let's go. Like, it boosts his confidence. And then he's remembering the mechanics and everything else. Like, all right, what did I do well on that throw? Oh, I wasn't heel clicky. My base was solid. My shoulders were even. I didn't throw a full-blown fastball. I gave him a little bit of touch on that, right? Things of that nature. So, yeah, man, I think Tyler Warren's going to be a big-time addition to this offense and really help them out.
Yeah, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about a little bit the defensive side of the ball. They did add Cam Bynum, they did add Mooney Ward, but I want to talk about a mainstay that's been there for a while. That's DeForest Buckner. He's a guy that often gets overlooked when it comes to the defensive tackle position,
Absolutely.
in my opinion. He defies time. He's a big guy, and it can rush the passer from the inside, but he can also stuff the run. I mean, how big has he been for this Colts team and just setting the tone for him over the years, in your opinion?
Man, I think he's been massive. Like, with DeForest Buckner, I remember when that trade happened, or when they were able to acquire him. And granted, he's 31 years old now, but like, this is one of the better and more premier defensive tackles in the league. You know what I mean? And he was so good in San Fran, and I still never understood why they drafted Javon Kinlaw, so they felt like that was going to be the. But you think back to 2018, he had 12 sacks in 2018 for San Fran. This guy plays the run very well, but also he rushes the passer. He's only had one season under 7 sacks, and that was 2024. And that's because he played 12 games last year. If he played 17, he eclipses that. He gets around that 8, 9, maybe 10 sack range. And when you have a guy that can dominate the interior defensive line, the quickest path to the quarterback is through the middle of the offensive line. DeForest Buckner is going to be able to do that. He's going to help you a lot in the run game, keep your linebackers free, because you kind of have to double team him because of just how disruptive he is with his strength, with his athleticism, with his long arms. And again, like you said, setting the tone. He is a physical dude. So 100%, I think he's been just a great player for them. And just continue. I just hope that the edge rushers can give him more help this year. Latu taking that step in year 2, things like that. If they can start getting more production from their edge rushers, okay, you double DeForest all you want, but if Latu is having 2.5 sack game, you might want to slide protection in his direction, and then that frees up DeForest to be able to collapse the pocket from the interior and create havoc for the quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to watch and see how DeForest Buckner does this season. Of course, he and Jeffrey Simmons at one point were talked about as the best defensive tackles in football. Of course, Chris Jones is that guy now, in my opinion. But definitely got to go next to the team that has owned the division, the last couple of years, and that would be the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans own the division, but they had some issues as well. One of those issues was the offensive line. Boy, oh boy. So
Mhm.
what they did this offseason was a few things that kind of shocked people. They got rid of Laramie Tunsil, traded him to the Washington Commanders. They traded Kenyon Green to the Philadelphia Eagles, which that wasn't surprising. But you bring in Cam Robinson, who Jacksonville fans remember very well and don't want to remember very well at the same time. And you have Laken Tomlinson. They bring in a rookie in Ursery out of Minnesota, and they just got different pieces up front to try to make this thing happen. So with all those changes that they've made, do you feel a little bit more comfortable with CJ Stroud back there behind them, or are you just like, let's stay a prayer and hope this thing works out for him?
Oh man, I think it's gonna be a little bit of a mixed bag trying to figure out because they have to find their top five. Their front that they have to
Mhm.
figure out who's going to be their starting five on the offensive line. Blake Fisher, the tackle out of Notre Dame that
Notre
they
Dame.
drafted last year, from everything that I've heard from camp, like he has not looked great, and he didn't look great
Mhm.
last year, when he played. So it's a very tough situation with him because it's like, man, we drafted him second round, and if this doesn't work out, so like they have to figure out, okay, where are we going to go with this? Is Cam Robinson going to start at left tackle? I remember seeing a tweet earlier that insinuated that basically don't be surprised if Ariante Ursery is their week one starting left tackle. And I was like, well, the fact that you brought in
Mhm.
Cam, that's interesting because it's like, well, what are you doing with Cam? Like Cam's on the book for like 12, almost $14 million. So what are we going to do with Cam? Right. Like, but my thing is like, if I would work with Ursery and see if he could play right tackle. I would have been working with him the whole time for that. I would not have put I wouldn't have hedged I wouldn't have put all my eggs in the Blake Fisher basket. I think that's where the mistake was
Mhm.
made. Um Simply because of the fact of like, yeah, like he was unproven. And the thing with him was just like, coming out was like the function, the strength, the physicality, like how would he adapt to that aspect of the NFL? And I don't know. I don't think it's been a very good adaptation period for him. So they got to find out who's the top five. Their front five.
Mhm.
Because if it's Fisher at right tackle and Ursery at left tackle and everything, I think the main thing for me is more so it's not even just the offensive line, it's the run game. Um, they're going to me, to protect. We know when you protect CJ Stroud, he's proved he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And even if he does get pressure, he showcased the ability to scramble and make outrageous throws down the field. But I think
Mhm.
when bringing in these new receiving pieces like Jayden Higgins and Jalen Noel and Christian Kirk, you have the pieces, especially with Tank Dell being out. With Nico Collins, you have Nico Collins. I think the key for me is running the football, protect the offensive line. I think the offensive line, if you run the ball and kind of it's close to 50-50 in terms of a balance split, it's going to allow those guys to lean on those defensive linemen, move guys off the ball, get into a rhythm, build their own confidence up. And then at the same time, it keeps you in third and manageable rather than third and longs if you can be productive in the run game. So that's what I want to see from them. I know they had joint practice with the Panthers, and there's clips that were on social media and everything of CJ having all day in
Mhm.
the pocket. Like they were able to, you know, um, they were able to protect them and everything like that. And he had time to wait for guys to get open
Mhm.
and deliver the football. So that's going to be the key, man. Is just figure out that front five.
Right, right. Well, the Not Bland Show had another comment for us. Said, I'm concerned for CJ. I am too. I
Yeah,
am
I'm
too.
not. Yeah, I am
But
too. They got to figure it out. They got to figure it out.
well, let's say CJ does have the time. One of his new weapons, new toys he has is Jayden Higgins out of Iowa State. Well, now I don't know if you recognize this, but they have three wide receivers on that team that are
Hmm.
from Iowa State now.
Yep,
But
Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen
Jaden Higgins and
Noel.
Jalen, yep, mhm. Right, right. So No, going back to Higgins, he's a big guy, but I talked to Cecil Shorts about him. He's a big guy, but he runs routes like a small guy. I'm like,
Hmm.
that's pretty interesting. So, what should be the expectation for him going into this season, being that he was the second round pick, they guaranteed his entire contract? I mean, what are your thoughts on what he can bring to this team?
Another consistent receiving option, especially on the outside. As a big body guy, he has really good body control. The back shoulder fade is always going to be there with him. And he has, he tracks the ball very well down the field. But I think where Nico is that big play, explosive, big body receiver, takes the top off on a consistent basis. This, in terms of Jayden Higgins, he's the opposite of that, where he's going to be to me, he's the guy that's going to be running the dagger concept, that 12 to 15-yard dagger route, that dig route in the middle of the field, the short to intermediate stuff on the outside and things like that, where he can operate more as a possession guy and allow Nico to be that just big play threat on a consistent basis. And I think that's what you want to see from him, because he does have good hips. He can sink and drive out of his breaks at the apex and get open and things of that nature. Really good against zone coverages. And if you start forcing teams in the zone, they want to play with too high, play cover two, rotating the cover three, things like that. He's going to find those soft spots, and he's 6'4". So he's got the long arms, he's got the big frame, easy to identify from the pocket for CJ Stroud. And even though CJ Stroud, when he's on, one of the most precision passing quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think he's going to bring that possession style of play and archetype to this offense, where it takes that away. You don't have, to me, like, you want to preserve Nico too, because Nico's battled some injuries. So I want to
Mhm.
preserve his body as well. So if I can get 7-8 targets or 7-8 catches to Jayden Higgins in a game, and Nico is still in that 6, 7, 8 range as well, but I don't have to feed him 10, 15, 17 targets, that's going to really help his body from having to wear down and he missed 3 or 4 games with a soft tissue injury or something like that. So I think the addition to Jayden Higgins could be a very nice one for this offense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch his growth, and it'll also be interesting to see what Mr. Christian Kirk has left in the tank as well. Last 2 seasons with injuries with him,
Yeah,
so that'll
man.
be interesting to watch. Finally, just want to kind of go over the Texans. Pretty much are predicted to win this division. Um, give or take anything crazy happening. Do you think that's something that's going to happen fairly easy for them, or do you think it's going to be kind of like a struggle for them, perhaps? Trying to make their way through the AFC South and the AFC in general to win this division.
I think with the question marks up front, I think it's going to be a little bit. There's going to be some resistance, because when you look at the rest of the teams in this division, all of them have talents in front fours. We talked about Tennessee with Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat and those guys, right? You look at Indianapolis, DeForest Buckner, Letu Latu, Quiddy Pay, and those, JT2 Maloa, whenever he's healthy and everything, like the rookie at Ohio State and whatnot. Jacksonville, Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen Hines, like Mason Smith, you hope take that step on the interior. Yeah, like they have to figure out the consistency on that front line to protect CJ Stroud. Because if not, like, you're gonna allow these teams that you're probably more talented than, right now. You know what I mean? Like Jacksonville, I think, is the team that rivals them in terms of talent. Indianapolis is, of course, it falls on the shoulders of the quarterback, but they've been this training camp, they've been hit with injuries. They lost their star rookie corner Justin Wally, who has been lights out in camp.
Hold on. Can we call him? Look, I had a nickname ready for him. Can I just say it one time on the show?
Yeah,
All right. I had a nickname. I was gonna call him Justin Uchiwali. That's what I was gonna call him the entire season, man. The little nice throwback there.
Lil Nas throwback. I like it. I like it, man. So good. A summertime throwback, that's for sure. A summertime in the
Yeah.
South throwback. I remember that song very, very well. But no, I think losing him and Juju Brents hasn't been able to stay healthy. Like I don't know what
Hmm.
that secondary is going to look like under with the new DC Lou and Arumu there. So I think it will be for Houston they win this division. I think they still win the division, but it's going to be a battle. I think they're going to fight every single. I think every divisional game they have this season is going to be a closer game than they'd like. And I think I definitely think that they could split with Jacksonville. Like, I absolutely think they could split with Jacksonville, and Jacksonville can make it very interesting and make it a divisional race that goes all the way to the end of the season. You know what I mean? And like we're looking at the odds and like, man, whoever wins week 17 wins this division and goes to the playoffs. That's how tight of a race I think it could be, because that front line. And again, like I think the stuff with the run game and Joe Mixon's foot, the reports of Nick Chubb, not having anywhere near the burst he used to have, which, I mean, I'm not surprised with the injuries he had back to back to his legs, right? Like that happens, and he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body. So Houston's in the they're in the driver's seat still because their defense is outstanding. They got the receivers, they have the quarterback, but definitely for everybody watching, keep your eye on Woody Marks, the rookie running back for Houston. That's the guy I think that could absolutely have a really big impact on this team. He showed up in, I think, the preseason game last week, or either training camp. Pass protection, but he's also a guy that I think he had over 200 receptions at the running back position coming out of college. So he's really good as a receiving back. And you're talking about if you're dealing with pressure, you get the ball to a guy like him in space and let him make plays against linebackers and find those mismatches.
Definitely. Man, it's been great touring the AFC South with you, Mr. Damian Parson, on the show, giving us a lot of elite insight as well. Of course, giving us a lot of elite words like a particular gentleman over your right shoulder or left shoulder as well. So greatly appreciated. Yeah.
Yes,
I knew I was gonna figure. I was in my mind looking at it. I was like, let me figure out how I'm gonna kind of put that in. For those that don't know and are watching, it's Kendrick Lamar that's over his shoulder in the picture. Yeah, definitely a huge Kendrick Lamar fan right here for sure. But just want to kind of give you the floor to tell everyone where they can find you on social media and any other things you got going on. The floor is yours.
Oh, of course. On Twitter, DP_NFL. You can follow me there. I'm the host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast with my guy Keith Sanchez. 5 days a week, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere there. Of course, at Bleach Report, this for the draft cycle, I do scouting reports over there. So I scout for Bleach Report as well as college football content, breaking down college football, Heisman rankings. I just did a show today on the BR app. So go check that out, ranking my top Heisman candidates for the 2025 college football season. And then also I have my own YouTube channel called The Scouting Room and podcast with my guy Daniel Harms. So you can go to YouTube, type in The Scouting Room. You'll find that. We break down pretty much everything from NFL, college, whatever. Breaking the film breakdowns. I just did a after Shador's debut. I broke down a couple plays from him. And everything like that. So you can go subscribe, check that out. I have a lot more coming. I actually have Fernando Mendoza, one of the top quarterbacks in college football, who transferred to Indiana. I'll be breaking down his film, to try to get that dropped over the weekend. So yeah, man, I'm pretty. I'm like an octopus right now. I have a lot of arms, and I'm just stretched in a lot of different areas of football, but I'm enjoying it.
Well, man, with all you said, I'm over here doing a few things, and I'm like, man, I need to work harder. I'm over here doing 3 or 4 different things, but I'm like, man, dang, I ain't doing enough. But as far as the show tonight, Not Bland Show had a comment and said, great show tonight. So he definitely enjoyed the breakdowns. Of course, I'm the host of the show. My name is Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Of course, I don't call it X because the only X I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X. That is it. But of course, you can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads at the THA, not THE _general_MP. Touring the AFC South is on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. We are also at the Mike Patton Network on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe. Click the bell so you get recognized, so you recognize every single episode that drops, and also comment and share because sharing is caring. We love that here. So, thank you all for tuning in to this episode 350 of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.